Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Today we're talking about how if you love Marvel Comics and you're a talented writer and you want to write a movie, they're not interested in you. You need not apply for the position. Now, what am I talking about? This is coming from an interesting article. MCU producer says writers who love Marvel are a red flag for him. Very interesting. You would think that they'd want people that loved the stories, loved the characters. No, that's not at all what they're looking for. Apparently, they need something much more important. Let's get into the article and find out what it's all about. Before we do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. You guys have been great. The channel is growing. I really appreciate you. Marvel Studios executive Nate Moore shockingly says that he looks warily at writers who are fans of Marvel Comics. Read the details. Well, here we go. Marvel Studios has been on a roll for a decade. It's built up its pantheon of heroes who are now recognized and loved worldwide. Kevin Feige's vision is still continuing as the Marvel Cinematic Universe continues to expand into its Phase 5, even though we know Phase 4 really hasn't worked out so well. One would expect that Feige and company would prefer writers for their projects who love Marvel. But according to Marvel Studios executive Nate Moore, it's quite the opposite. MCU producer is wary of writers who are fans of Marvel. He's not just wary of them. He basically comes off with the attitude of, we're not interested in you. We need people who we can utilize to shape this into something unrecognizable from the comics. Sitting down for an interview with the podcast called The Town with Matt Maloney. I'm going to give you a link to the podcast here. It's pretty good. MCU producer Nate Moore explained that he rejects diehard Marvel comic fans as writers. He said, quote, "For me, one thing I think is interesting about Marvel's process, specifically for writers, I would say a lot of times we're pitched writers who love Marvel." I mean, because you'd think that, right? You'd think that people who are writers, which, that's a skill, it's a talent, but it's a skill, are inspired by the Marvel characters. You would think that a lot of them would flock to Marvel and want the opportunity to write a movie for them. To me, that's always a red flag if you love Marvel. Because he goes, oh, I don't want you to already have a pre-existing idea of what it is, because you grew up with issue 15 and that's what you want to recreate. I want somebody who's hard on the material who goes, what is this? I think there's a movie here, but maybe we should be looking at this a different way. So you want someone, Nate Moore says he wants someone who's going to heavily judge the material and undermine it and question it and say, no, okay, maybe there's an idea we can utilize here, but we don't want to respect the material. We don't want to recreate the material. We need to turn it into something else that Nate Moore wants it to be. Nate Moore further explains, I think, again, the best example of that for me was Marcus and McFeely, who weren't comic guys coming up, but were like, wait, Captain America, this seems a bit weird. What if we kind of looked at it this way? And they weren't married to anything. Nothing was, there was nothing sacrosanct. Are you kidding me? You're supposed to be doing branded content. This is supposed to feel like it's in the Marvel Universe. These guys are so ridiculously egotistical, going off the momentum created by the work of greats that came before them. One project on top of another one. And then when they got big enough, they just figure, hey, if we say it's Marvel, then it's Marvel. If we say it's not Marvel, then it's not Marvel. No matter what millions of fans have said or what people have enjoyed over the years or how characters developed over the course of a decade after, 100 stories or more, they don't care about any of that. Nothing is sacrosanct. This is what has completely destroyed Disney, is that unlike, say, Coca-Cola that has, a special formula, there's no respect for what the actual brand is. They want creators to come in, define the brand any which way that they feel, and like they did with She-Hulk, they can go completely far off the rails, do whatever they want to do, co-opt the stuff for political purposes, and if you agree with them, fine. If you don't agree with them, fine. Whatever. The brand is what we say it is. The problem is that isn't quality. That's not consistency. There's some common aesthetic that a brand is supposed to have when you consume bits and pieces of the brand over time. Like when you go to McDonald's, you know what you're going to get from McDonald's. You drink a Coke, you know what a Coke is going to taste like. It's not whatever Nate Moore or even Kevin Feige says, oh, well, this is Marvel, this is not Marvel. We can change it any day of the week that we want. No, you can change it, but you're diminishing and destroying the brand when you do that. There could be something hidden when you're really doing the right work, where you do treat the material as sacrosanct and as important, that you uncover an aspect that you hadn't covered in comics before. Absolutely. You can find different things. You can develop areas that weren't developed before, but you should respect the skeleton and the basis of the material. I assume you agree with me, but let me know what you think of that in the comments below. He thinks it's important for writers to look at the source material objectively. And I think that's important to be able to go, look, the source material is great, and I love it. And comics work great in the medium they were built in. But that's not a direct one-to-one translation of the best version of the movie. No, you don't love the source material. You don't. You've no sense of seeing his comments here. You can listen to the whole podcast. There's no sense that Kevin Feige loves comic books, that Nate Moore here loves comic books, or any of these guys working on the movies. There's a sense that the comic books are there to serve them, and they don't respect these characters that so many people have loved and followed over the years, that the characters start to develop like their own life to them, because there's a shared experience of what a predefined character is. We all know what Spider-Man is, and for the most part, that's been maintained at Sony. But nothing else that Marvel does is subject to that kind of continuity. Is Nate Moore right to reject hardcore comics fans? I mean, respecting the material doesn't make you a hardcore comics fan. This article concludes that Marvel has the right idea, that they shouldn't have to worry about respecting any of the material in the comics, as Nate Moore calls it, sacrosanct. I completely disagree. The material is what the material is. They're not just high concept pitches. There's a full story. There are other characters that relate to that character in that story. The character goes through different challenges over their life experience that you see played out. You know, it's dehumanizing the character that was obviously based on some human being going through some challenges. And you should respect the material. If you're not going to respect the material, you should create a brand new character. Not just borrow the name, or you wind up with something like Black Panther, which is the most ridiculous possible thing you could do, is not only not represent the character to relate to the character from the comics, but to completely remove the character from the sequel and to just say, well, you know, we don't really need to go ahead and have a sequel to a character's story actually involve and feature the character. That's how ridiculous this goes. I don't know how much further they could take this concept. I can't even imagine, because I never would have thought they would do a thing like Wakanda Forever and leave out Black Panther. Let me know what you think in the comments below if you have any ideas about how much nuttier this could possibly get. Please be sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.